Welcome to the mailbox sewing tutorial. This is the part where you're going to do it all on your regular sewing machine. The edges are a little bit tricky to get together, so I'm going to give you some options on how to do that if you don't want to sew them. So here is just photos front and back as well as the hardware. Your zipper is going to be about a 25-inch zipper with tabs and then whatever hardware you want. Depending on the thickness of your vinyl, you may or may not want to add a boning. I put channels in so that this is an option. It's about a 5-inch cut. You need either a thin boning, which I purchased off Amazon, or a zip tie, which is a super cheap option and will give it that structure. You're just going to cut it down to a 5-inch mark and then you're going to slide it in. I use pliers to get it past where I'll be sewing so that it never interferes with my sewing machine. This video here is just showing you where those channels go. I've already got boning installed, so when I flip this over, you will see the lines where the boning is already in place. But this is a good idea if you have a really thin vinyl that you want to keep its shape. Also, make sure that you poke your holes for the D-ring. From here, you need to choose your hardware, poke the holes, make sure you got everything ready. And then you're going to go ahead and edge coat what you need before you install the zippers so that that is all nice and clean for when you go ahead. These are just an eyelet that I purchased from Amazon. So this is the type of edge coat I use. I find a base coat works really well and then a top coat over top of it. Here, I'm just going to add a ribbon. You don't have to do this. You could just edge coat that bottom, but I really liked how the ribbon came out on this red one, so I'm going to do the same thing because I already have the color in this Tiffany. So here are just photos of what that looks like. I take it to my machine. It's folded over, so it's the same on both sides, and then just going to sew it into place. You cut it at the edges and seal it with the heat because you're not going to actually see that in the finished bag. If you feel that it's something that you want a clean edge on, just fold it over and stitch it on the underside, and that way it's never seen. But it didn't bother me once I sealed it with the heat because it melts it and puts it really nicely. From here, we're just going to turn the base over and we're going to line the two pieces up. There should be two contrasting lines on your pieces, the piece that blends in really well and then the white detailing or whatever color detailing you used. You're going to use the one that matches the vinyl. You're going to line up the base with that line. There's going to be a space in between. You'll see all your lines will match up quite nicely. You can see me doing it here. It's just centering it in. You're just going to make sure it's nice and center, and then you're going to top stitch over those pieces. I top stitch on the ribbon, and I also top stitch on the line that matches the vinyl. It's not something that is really shown in the final piece if you're doing clean stitches, and it just gives it a little extra structure right in that front. Obviously, you can choose which one you want to stitch over and only do it once. I like to do it twice. If you didn't backstitch, you're obviously going to take those threads, turn it over, and tie them off. Here I'm just folding it. I like to make sure that it's got a little bit of a crease so that everything kind of goes together a little bit easier. Now, here's the tricky part, is doing the sides. I find that setting it together and double checking everything before I tape it together is a little bit easier. I also have a carpet tape that is 1 inch that I cut down and use because it's super sticky and it will hold it. Not all machines can go through this, so obviously do the double-sided. Here I'm just marking the top center so that I can install my 25-inch zipper. I'm just starting from the top middle. And because I like my edges to be nice and clean, I do a little bit different than most, I think. I do that top stitch first. You'll see me do it right here. And then I will go ahead and lay my sides. So, as we stitch. Can't remember if I did this on camera. So now that that top is in place, I'm not going to be fiddling with it falling off. I'm just tying my threads here. Obviously, if I had backstitched, it wouldn't be a problem, but sometimes I just choose to do it that way. Now I'm going to do one side, and then I'm going to do another side, and because it's not pulling from the top, it will lay pretty nicely on both sides, but I will use a clip to hold the bottom edges together. And I'm truly just using the curve of that corner to lay that down. See, I'm just going to put a clip here, and the clip is going where I'm not going to be sewing. Laying that down and make sure it's nice and smooth. So, as I pointed out, I'm just going to do those edges first. When I started on one side from the base going up towards the top, and so then I just did the curve in that. But when I did the other side, you want to just make sure that you're doing whatever feels most comfortable for you and what works for you, because what works for me is not going to be what works for everybody. And I'm going right over my stitches, so you're not actually going to see, if you use the same color thread, you're not really going to see a double stitch line. You're just going to see a thicker stitch line if you're going right over the stitches already in place. So because of the way that this design is created, there's not a huge seam allowance in certain areas because there are a lot of raw edges. I'm just adjusting that so it lays flatly. So one side is done. And like I said, I did the curve in that one, where this one I'm not doing the curve because I'm keeping it in the line of how I'm sewing. And then I'll go back and do the curve. But everything is laid out and smooth so that it goes well. There is no guide on this one. I'm literally just following the stitches already made by the embroidery machine. And I try to do that throughout the whole assembly process so that my sewing machine lines aren't the thing that stands out. Obviously, I'm using a 5-inch zipper here, but if you want, you can use a 3-inch zipper. That will give you the same effect, but without having as much exposed in the inside. It doesn't bother me. I've used a silver zipper here, and the worst thing about this is it likes to fray, even though I've sealed it a couple times at the base. So you'll see me when I go to do the zipper tabs, I'm sealing it twice, 3 times, trimming it, all those things, and then sewing that into place. So here we are. I've gone ahead and pinned my zippers out of the way with those clips, and I'm adding my double-sided tape to my flaps. And like I said, this is going to be the trickiest part. You really have to take your time, and if this doesn't work for you, you are always welcome to use rivets. I just don't like the look of the rivets, so that's why I just take a little extra time and get as close as I can on that zipper. Now, the design that you're going to get, the side panels have it raised a little bit more in the details of the stitching, so that if you choose to put a rivet there, that will not interfere with the design itself. Like, it will not interfere with the side details. It's going to be easier to sew this for me inside out. I have pinned and used staples to hold it into place, and I've lost the footage, but you will do the same thing on that top edge right here. You are not going to be sewing those last, I want to say it's like almost 2 inches, 1.5 inches. You will staple that into place or stitch that into place with a line right there, whichever your preference is, but honestly, the staples are the easiest. Just make sure that the head is up so that it's easy for you to remove later, because we're literally only using those as a stabilizer until such time as the zipper is in place, and that will sew it there. The reason that is open in the finished item, or at least wise until we get to the hardware, is so that I can install rivet hardware up at that top, and then you'll just put a couple of drops of glue and that will hold everything right there. Same thing as you did on the bottom or the back side, whichever you want to call it. You're going to center, you're going to line up your zipper tape and put everything into place. Hopefully these instructions are understandable for all of you, because this is not my natural. I'm literally the person that makes it up as they go along so much. So I'm going to install this zipper with the bag right side out, but I will sew it with the bag inside out. Reason being, I'm using this as just my way of being able to see it. If it's easy for you to see it as you line it up inside out, go for it. I will do it this way. I add clips, I add staples, I add whatever I need to secure it when I turn it inside out, and then I go ahead and sew it. You're leaving about 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch at the base. You're just following the lines already provided. If you continue using those as your guide, you're set. Because at the base, you're going to have your zipper tab that you're going to install, as well as your shoe hooks, can't remember, shoelace hooks, something like that. Watching me do this is like watching paint dry, because I'm so slow. I have sped this up because I am that slow. Here you can see I got it all nice and pretty. I pushed that zipper right up to the edge because when you go and you use your zipper later, it will go smoothly, I promise. I've already zippered everything, turned it inside out. Here you can see me struggling. I did this on film, but typically what I do is I will put that zipper on inside out. You'll see me do it twice. And this is, the first time is just to make sure the zipper is sitting where I want. The second time is so that I can add the zipper tabs. So you can see here everything is sitting perfectly. But now I have to turn it inside out so I can add the zipper tabs. So we're going to pull these ones out. You can see I'm contemplating. I'm like, what did I do wrong here? Why is this one difficult and the other ones haven't been? It's because I did it backwards for me. So don't be me. Once you install your zipper, just go ahead and turn it and leave it inside out. It just make your life easier. Don't make your life harder. So this is how it should be done right after you install your zipper. Leave it this way. Don't be me. Install your zipper. And I will go through twice because I want the ends both to be nice and tight. But the second time I put that zipper tab on, it'll sit in the middle, and that way everything for the installation of the zipper tabs is nice and pretty. And of course, I chose the biggest zipper head to try and fit through that little tiny spot. But I got it. I'm golden. Now we're going to add it again, now that everything is nice and pretty. I'm just cleaning it up a little bit because, like I said, the gold and silver zipper tape like this love to fray. It's horrible. So if you're using it, you might want to give yourself a little extra space so that if it does continue to fray on you, you're not chopping off where your zipper tab is going to go. You have some wiggle room. So once again with that huge freaking zipper head, and we're just going to push it up so it's out of the way, and we're going to install our zipper tabs. This is the width of the zipper plus the about 2 inches. I've added my carpet tape on the back. Obviously, you don't have to do that, but I didn't want this going anywhere. And my machine handles the carpet tape really well. I don't use the carpet tape on everything. It's just been a godsend when you're putting it in tight spaces and you don't want anything to shift. So I'm just sticking that into place. I'm going to sew it. I just do a straight line. You can sew your zipper tab however you choose. So from here, now that I've got my zipper tabs installed, I'm just going to turn my bag right side out. I'm checking to make sure everything is sitting the way I want. And from here, you're just going to install your hardware. So I will have another video showing how I installed the little ring things that I needed that haven't come in the mail yet. But I just used the holes that I've already provided. I can put my lock on if I wanted to do a lock. Obviously, I could put the handle on the top or however I chose to do that. If you're doing webbing, you just slide your webbing in and you can rivet that in place. You don't even have to worry about what I'm doing if you're not going to make it into a crossbody bag. But hopefully this was something that you can kind of follow along and understand. It was a lot of fun to create. If you have areas that you feel need a little bit more reinforcement, grab some fabric tack and make sure that you just glue that down nicely. For me, it doesn't really bother me. I think I might make an insert for these bags, but I haven't quite designed how I want to do that. Where the tabs are at the bottom, you can rivet the tabs. If you don't like them loose, you can rivet those tabs into place when you add your eye hooks. That was the original intention, but obviously I've been waiting for the eye hooks to show up in the mail. But you can either rivet them in place separately, or you can rivet them in place using the eye hook. That is entirely up to you. But I hope you enjoy. I had a lot of fun with this.